This is Emerging Daily with Charlton Scott Fisher. Scott is the founder and leader of Emerge Nashville, a spiritual refuge that's an evolving ministry expressing radical grace every day. Emerge is supported 100% by listeners like you. To make your tax-deductible gift and to learn more about Emerge, visit emergenashville.org or email emergenashville@gmail.com. We hope this program will help you to emerge as pure gold and to stir you to put love into action.
Welcome to this edition of Emerging Daily. I'm Scott Fisher, and I'm on the go, so you'll hear some noise in the background, trying to get some things done, had to go to the doctor and some other things. So we are on the go today. Yesterday we talked about the Tabernacle of Moses, and I hope that didn't bore you. I really hope that it stirred you to really begin to see yourself in the scripture, see how that all of it is about you, about your spiritual journey, your spiritual growth, because that's what it's all about. Today, I want to talk about what is your motivation in your life. What drives you? What is it that gets you going? The whole point of yesterday was to help motivate you towards understanding spiritual truth, understanding the symbolism in Scripture. But once you begin to understand that and you see that that's what it's all pointing towards, then you should develop somewhere within you a drive towards spiritual growth if you don't already have it. I would think that you do, or you wouldn't be listening to this podcast. But what is it that drives you? What is it that motivates you? And ultimately, the thing that needs to really motivate us, the thing that really needs to drive us is love. If that's our motivating force, if that is what drives us, if that is what we are built upon and what pushes us towards the future, I guarantee you we'll grow spiritually. That has to be our foundation, and that has to be not just the foundation, but the goal as well. It's about love. It's about love for God and love for one another. And if that's not our goal, if that's not what motivates us, if that's not what drives us, then the other thing is selfishness, because you only have the two. Either you're motivated by love for others, or you're motivated by love for self. And ultimately, love for self is like a black hole, because you're never going to fill that void. Black holes have always fascinated me ever since I was a kid, because they draw even the light in, and light can't even escape the gravity of a black hole. It sucks everything in, but it's never filled. It's like a void that's never filled. That's what our soul is. That's what our life is. If we're not motivated by true love, by the love, the agape, what the Bible calls agape love, the love of God that's within us, that loves God and loves our neighbor. If that's not what motivates us, it's like our whole life is like a black hole, and we try to suck different things into it to fill that void, and it's never full. It's never full. There's a story in the book of Numbers about when Israel, while they're in the wilderness, they are in Moab, and they come to a place called Peor. Peor means a gap. And when they get to that place, many of the people of Israel end up worshiping what is called Baal Peor. Baal means Lord, so they worship the Lord of the gap. And so what does it mean to worship the Lord of the gap? Well, basically what they're doing, they're trying to fill that gap. And remember, all this is symbolic. This is all symbolic of you. Everything in there is symbolic of you, your spiritual journey, your spiritual growth and development. That's what it's all about. So when they're worshiping the Lord of the gap, basically they're sacrificing to this Lord of the gap. Because they're in this gap, they're in this valley, and they're trying to fill this gap. They're trying to fill this void in themselves, in their life, with whatever they can find out here outwardly, instead of worshiping God within them. Because see, that will fill that gap. As you press into the Lord, as you press into Him, press into Spirit within you, yeah, there'll be some voids, but that void will be filled as you are motivated and driven by love. Because see, it becomes to where it's not about you anymore. It's not about you drawing things into yourself. It's about you giving to God, giving your life, giving your body to God, your life to God, all these things. Remember, we talked yesterday about how that the brazen altar was where we offered the sacrifice. Well, we are that lamb. So as we give ourselves over to God and we press into God and we give to others and we see others as parts of ourselves and we give to those, we seek to fulfill other people, then we're not drawing all this darkness really into ourselves, because that's what it is. If there's not light, there's darkness. And like I said, on a black hole, it draws light, can't even escape it because of the gravity, because it's sucking everything in. And our soul, our consciousness, if it's not focused on spirit and on love, it's just like a black hole, and it sucks. We try to fill it with knowledge of worldly things. We try to fill it with entertainment that really it might feel good at the time, but then it leaves us empty. We fill it with sex, or we fill it with drugs. And this is the thing that you hear preachers talk about all the time, but it's true. And we don't like to hear this because it makes us have to look at ourselves and say, well, really, where am I? Where do I stand? Where am I at in my walk? In my spiritual life? Am I motivated by love? Am I motivated and driven by love for God and love for others? Or am I just motivated and driven by selfishness, love for self? Because that is a choice that we make. It's not that we can't go past that. That's a choice we make every day. Am I going to live for me, or am I going to live for God? Am I going to live for others? And if all you're doing is living for yourself, if all you're doing is going to work every day so that you can have a better car and a better house and better things, you're never going to fill that void.
Hey, we'll get back into the message and teaching in just a moment, but we wanted to pause for a moment and tell you about some things. Please check out our website. emergenashville.org is the main site for the ministry, and we would really appreciate it if you would go there and check it out. You can read about the mission and vision of Emerge Nashville. You can see some areas of impact that we want to make in Middle Tennessee and in the world, and it shares some things about the teachings and the beliefs and things. So we'd really appreciate it if you would check that out. Also, if you are on Facebook, please like our page. It's facebook.com/emergingdaily. Please go there and like it. That would be a great help to us. And also, if you would like some of the postings that we do, we sometimes put on there about different podcast episodes, and sometimes we will make a sort of a little preview video that shares sometimes the introduction to different episodes of the podcast. And if you would like those and share those, that would really be a big help to us as well. And if you're on Twitter, please follow us at Emerging Daily. It's twitter.com/emergingdaily, but the Twitter handle is at Emerging Daily. And if you would follow us on that and sometimes retweet or like some of our postings, that would be awesome. That would help us to get more people following the podcast. Tell your friends, families, co-workers about the podcast. That would be a big help as well. And consider supporting the podcast and the ministry. That would be awesome if you would. You can go to the website, emergingdaily.org, and there are links there to where you can do that. Also, please get on our mailing list. We send out a newsletter. We try to do it at least once a month, but also we'll do some email blasts where we are doing different things. That would be awesome. And also, like I said, please consider supporting the podcast. You can go to the website there, and there are links to our Patreon page where you can donate on a continual basis or just a one-time gift. Anything would be great. It would help us. We are looking for places where we can have worship and teaching times in Lebanon and in Nashville and or points in between. And we're looking for some venues that people would feel comfortable in, not just a churchy type situation, but different music venues or entertainment venues, places where you can come and just be yourself, feel at home, and be comfortable. So any kind of monetary support would help us in that way to secure those places. And also, we're looking at trying to get some office space for the ministry. We're going to be having an online bookstore on the website coming soon, where we will have some different books that will really help you in your spiritual journey. So there's a lot of things we're looking to do. We have some different outreaches that we're wanting to begin, and if you were part of our mailing list, you already know about that. If you're not, we'll send some more information about those things. We're wanting to help with an HIV outreach. We're wanting to do some things. It's called Project Do Something, where we try to fill in the gap where other nonprofits and government organizations do not help in different ways. We want to try to fill that gap, and we're also wanting to do an outreach to some of the emerging artists that come into the Nashville area. Many times they're coming there looking to start a career, and they end up having to eke out a meager living with a minimum wage job or even less if they're having to wait tables or something, and they can't even sometimes afford a place to live. They come to Nashville with big dreams. We don't want to discourage them, but we do want to help them, and we want to also, with that outreach, to provide opportunities for them to learn, to hone their skills a little, and also to help them to get their artistry out, to get their music out, or get their graphic designs or different artistry that they are capable of doing. We want to help them get that out there so that they can begin to make a living using their skills and gifts and talents. And then we're also wanting to do an outreach to Haiti. I've been to Haiti. It's the poorest country in this hemisphere. We're wanting to do some things to help them, and also to help the LGBTQ community there, because they're going through a lot of discrimination, and so we want to help them with that as well. So please consider supporting this podcast and this ministry, because it will be a big help, and we'll be able to make a big impact as you do so. And we'll get back into the message here in just a minute. We really appreciate you listening to this podcast. Please share it. Share the link on your Facebook and on your Twitter and whatever else. We really would appreciate it. Help spread the word about what we're trying to do and about the podcast. Thank you. Do you like to shop online for either yourself or for gifts for others? Do you like the convenience of shopping online, but also like to help support local shops and retailers? What if you could do both? Check out BellsGiftsAndMore.com. Bell's Gifts and More is locally owned and operated, based just outside of Nashville in Lebanon, Tennessee. They have men's and women's clothing fashions and accessories, wallets, handbags, watches, jewelry, books, media, home and office items, electronics, and more, all at great prices. And they add new items to their inventory almost every day. So go to BellsGiftsAndMore.com and use promo code EMERGE when you check out to get an additional 10% off your purchase, excluding sellout. That's BellsGiftsAndMore.com.
That's a choice we make every day. Am I going to live for me, or am I going to live for God? Am I going to live for others? And if all you're doing is living for yourself, if all you're doing is going to work every day so that you can have a better car and a better house and better things, you're never going to fill that void. Ever, ever. It's always going to be there, and really it gets worse and it gets deeper and darker. But if you begin to live and see your life for what it was designed and destined to be, as a vehicle for God to manifest in this world, and you see your life as a vehicle for love to be expressed through you and as you, then you are the light of the world. You give forth light instead of darkness. You give forth light. That light is shining through you as you to other people. And you don't have to go around trumpeting what you're doing if you're trying to help people, because really that's defeating the purpose of it. Jesus said those that do that already have their reward. You're not doing it for a reward if you're doing it out of love. You're doing it really just to help somebody. You're doing it because that fills that void. There's nothing like helping somebody and doing it from a pure spirit, from a pure heart, out of love for that person. And it don't have to be a member of your family. It doesn't have to be a friend. When you're helping a total stranger and you see how that love has completely changed them, you've changed their life. You've changed, even for an instant, you've made a difference in the world. you've given forth light, and that light is the light of God, and it's immense. And if you could really just begin to understand, it may seem insignificant at the time, whatever it is that you're doing for somebody. It may seem like a little thing, and it's not a big deal. But let me tell you, those little things add up. And if each of us would do at least one little thing every day, just imagine how different the world would be. Just imagine how different even the city you live in would be if everybody would just do one thing for somebody else unselfishly, just for the fact of doing it to help somebody. Just imagine that. That is ultimately where we want to go. We want to get to that place where we don't even think, well, I need to do something good for somebody today. No, it just comes natural. And then it gets to where your whole life is about giving to somebody, about helping somebody, about spreading love. That's what I want. I know that will fulfill that void, because every single time that you do something for somebody like that, out of unselfishness, just for the fact of showing forth love, you are edified. It's like you enter another dimension in the spiritual realm, in your growth. Each time you do something like that, it's like you go a little higher in your development. What are you driven by? What motivates you? This is something we need to look at every day. Think about every day when you're at work. What are you doing there? Why are you there? Why are you at that job? And if that job is just so that you can get a paycheck, you're never going to feel like you're fulfilling your purpose, because you're not really. All you're doing is getting a paycheck. That's all you're doing. Why are you doing what you do every day? And maybe you need to find another job. See, the greatest aspect of industry in this nation is not making things anymore. Service industry is the biggest industry and the biggest growth area in this country and really in the world. Why? Because ultimately we're all about serving others. That's what our life should be. When you go to the restaurant and somebody waits on you, don't look at them as that you're better than them. Look at it that this is an aspect of God that is there to help you. And look at that person as being an aspect of God, and think of how your dealings with that person would change, how you would respect that waiter or waitress, how you would respect that attendant in the restroom or the cashier at the gas station. If you really realize that they're there to service you as an aspect of God meeting your needs, and see that person as God in your life, how different would you approach these people? How different would you look at them and look at them in the eyes and respect them and smile at them and appreciate what they're doing? What are you doing? How are you helping somebody? You know, there's some people that they're very capable. They are very, very capable and very intelligent, and they're very able to have a much better job in an office somewhere doing something, but they don't want that. They would rather be serving somebody. And ultimately, that's where we're all headed. And I'm not trying to say that if you have a job in an office that's not a good thing, because whatever you're doing there, look at it. Look at where you are today and see how in some way that you can use your job to help serve others. If you work in an office, how is what you're doing serving somebody else? And if you can look at it that way, even if you're just there to answer a phone, maybe you're a software engineer and you're working in an office and all you're doing is working at the computer trying to develop software. Well, see that job as being a service to the world, and how if I can get this if I can do the best and make this the best that I can, how can it serve others? If you're working in a factory and you're just putting a knob on something, just look at it this way. How can this serve others? What is the purpose of what I'm doing? If I can look at it as being a service for others and I can do it out of love, trust me, you will find more fulfillment that way than if you just look at it as you're going there to get a paycheck. Look at everything you do as a service for others. And if you can't, then you need to find another job where you can. Because that's what our life is for. That's what love is about, is serving one another. That's why Jesus, he got down on his knees and took a towel and wrapped himself and washed the feet of the disciples. What was he doing? He was showing that that's how we should be for each other. He didn't mean that we physically had to get down and wash each other's feet as some kind of a ritual. What he was doing was showing us how our life should be, a service for others. How are you serving someone else? How are you serving the world? What drives you? What motivates you? We need to be driven by love, and if we are, love is giving. Love is all about giving. Love is nothing if it's not giving, and giving is serving. So look at your life today. Look at where you are. Look at your job. Look at your career. How are you serving others? What is driving you? What is motivating you? Because you'll never be fulfilled until each day you're motivated and driven by love.
Thanks for listening today, and we hope you were stirred to put love into action. Feel free to send your questions or comments to emergenashville@gmail.com, and please consider donating on our website, emergenashville.org, or write to Emerge, P.O. Box 3242, Lebanon, Tennessee 37088.